Shallow knowledge is better than no knowledge. The strange value of half remembered facts. A common theme in adult conversation is looking back on school and joking about all the things we learned that never seemed very useful afterward. At some point, someone will quip, Mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Lord knows how many times I've called out the phrase myself. I remember sitting in middle school biology class with a diagram of a cell in front of me, comically bizarre icons floating around inside a spherical blob. Beyond that, I remember very little about the blob or the functions of its parts. The mitochondria joke highlights the idea that schools teach many things that do not seem especially relevant to adult life. And maybe there is some truth in that. But I want to point to something else about this phrase, and that is this: shallow knowledge is better than no knowledge. This is one of the many phrases I recall from Daniel T. Willingham's book, Why Don't Students Like School? But why is it important? Why is it better to remember that mitochondria are the powerhouse of the cell than to remember nothing from middle school science? Shallow knowledge is the stepping stone to deep understanding. Before one can know something deeply, one often knows it only vaguely or partially. Knowledge doesn't pump straight into long-term memory. It must be reattended to through spaced retrieval practice over time. If one's going to learn anything about biology or history or math, then brief, handy phrases are useful to begin the process of deeper learning. Anyone who knows mitochondria are the powerhouse of the cell is already one step closer to understanding more advanced science. If students later learn why people breathe harder during exercise, why food gives the body energy, why cells need oxygen, or why some diseases make people feel tired and weak, then mitochondria become important again. The phrase gives students a basic mental model. Cells need energy, and mitochondria help provide it. Shallow knowledge also matters for practical skill. If a child wants to learn to ride a bike, then knowing what the handlebars, brakes, pedals, and seat do is essential. That knowledge alone will not produce smooth riding, but without it, smooth riding becomes much harder. In the same way, having a cursory understanding that mitochondria are the powerhouse of the cell can help students make sense of what they observe during a science lab. If students are studying exercise, breathing, heart rate, or energy use in living things, then the idea of cells needing energy suddenly matters. Without some background knowledge already in place, a lab can be little more than following directions. But even with shallow background knowledge, students are more able to understand what they're seeing and why it's important. And this idea extends far beyond science. Education is full of small phrases, facts, rules, and definitions that seem simplistic in isolation but become useful later. A noun is a person, place, or thing. Plants make their own food. I before E except after C. Mitochondria are the powerhouse of the cell. None of these phrases represents deep mastery, but they give learners something to grab onto. None of us remember our entire education, especially in subjects we didn't study further. We remember fragments, little phrases, definitions, rules, half-remembered facts, but those fragments are often doing more work than we give them credit for. Even decades later, many adults still vaguely remember that mitochondria have something to do with energy in cells, that photosynthesis involves plants and the sun, or that Newton had something to do with motion and force. The knowledge may be incomplete, it may be fuzzy, but it is not nothing. Those fragments help people follow conversations, read articles, recognize ideas, ask better questions, and connect new information to old memories. They become part of a shared cultural vocabulary that helps people communicate, learn more, and yes, even create jokes and memes that people instantly understand. One does not need to become a biologist for middle school biology to retain value. Sometimes education succeeds not by producing mastery, but by leaving behind useful footholds people can continue building on later. So, yes, mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, is funny. It became a cultural inside joke precisely because people actually remembered it. But maybe that's also evidence that the phrase worked. A tiny piece of knowledge stuck. And no, that is not mastery, but it is not nothing.